Go. Hello and welcome to Full Throttle in association with the Alliance of British Drivers here on Unprecedented TV. I'm Paul Naylor, Director of Communications for the ABD, and today, alongside Brian Gregory, we are going to be cutting through the headlines, challenging the policies affecting everyday people, and bring a healthy dose of common sense to the issues that matter most. While our roots are firmly in championing Britain's motorists, the conversation doesn't stop there. From transport and taxation to energy, the economy and government policy, we're here to ask the questions that some others won't.
Hi, I'm Brian Gregory, Policy Director of the ABD. Whether you're behind the wheel every day or simply interested in the issues shaping Britain's future, this is a place for informed discussion and honest debate. In this edition, we'll be reviewing some of the biggest stories making the headlines, giving our take on them and what they really mean and why they matter. Buckle up, this is Full Throttle.
Hello, Brian.
Now then, Paul.
Then.
We've got one of our digest issues together. It's sort of hot off the press, and I think it's a good source of topics to discuss.
Absolutely.
So I'll start from the top and work way down to the bottom.
Okay.
If you start at the very beginning, a very good place to start is Mary Poppins.
There we go.
Oh no, it's The Sound of Music. It wasn't Mary Poppins, was it? Right. Okay. So the first thing I just want to highlight for people, there is a website called the World of CO2 website, run by a guy called Raymond Inauen, and I think he's in Switzerland somewhere. But the site is a really excellent resource for looking at carbon dioxide and how important it is to human life and what is its status in terms of the climate and various other things, energy policy. It's quite a useful resource, and it's the website link is https://www.the-world-of CO2, and that's small c, small o, and then the numeral 2, fullstop.com/home. So it's worth looking at that website. There's a lot of useful information, particularly for anybody who doesn't really understand how much CO2 there is in the atmosphere, how significant it is for us. I mean, we breathe in carbon dioxide at 0.04% of the air we breathe in, and the breath we exhale is 100 times more concentrated in CO2. We breathe it out at 4%.
Yeah, I've just double checked. If people just put the world of CO2 into their search engine,
it'll find it.
It will find it. Yeah.
Okay. The second topic was a quote somebody had put, which I highlighted, who said CO2 is not a bad thing. Oh, I think it was the Piers Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn's brother. CO2 is not a bad thing. CO2 is the gas of life. Without it, plants wouldn't grow. We would all be dead. We should argue for more CO2, not less. It's a very sensible point of view, and it's one that's echoed actually by Patrick Moore, who's one of the former founder members of Greenpeace, but is now an environmental campaigner in favour of the importance of CO2 and why we should not strangle our economies by stopping using hydrocarbons, because combusting hydrocarbons, A, produces CO2, which is great for plant life, and B, the products from hydrocarbon combustion and hydrocarbons actually what sustain modern world. So
Yeah.
the idea of not exploiting those things is frankly economically insane.
Well, a few months back, we had a tree consultant on the show, Mark Chester, who is
Yeah.
also a supporter of Driving Sense magazine, which is
Yes.
a publication from the Alliance of British Drivers. He advertises in that. And he was saying the very same thing, wasn't he? You know,
Yeah.
CO2 is the lifeblood.
And the thing is, when you watch stuff like I think it might have been Alex Epstein, but I can't remember. There was a congressional committee on how should we abate carbon dioxide emissions, and one of the questions said, well, how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere then, asking these congressmen in America.
Yeah.
And none of them had the faintest idea. Some were talking 10%, 12%. And he said, well, it's actually 0.04%. It's 400 parts per million. It's a trace gas. There's more argon in the atmosphere than there is carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
One of the, the noble gases. And people don't realize that. And I'll say it again, because it bears saying as often as possible that over 95% of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere at any one time comes from natural sources, which we have no control. So trying to control the man-made emissions is pointless, because there's about 25 times more emissions from the natural world than from humans.
Yeah.
So it's like
I really don't understand where people have got fixated on this from.
No.
It's crazy.
Well, they've been propagandized for decades on it. You've got these people like Antonio Gutierrez in the UN saying the oceans are boiling. Even at the poles, even at the equator, rather, the oceans are maybe at 25 to 30 degrees Celsius on the hottest day.
Yeah.
So there's another sort of 70 degrees of heating you'd have to get before you could even boil the oceans at the equator. Never mind at the poles, where it's minus 80 at times. You've got an even bigger problem up there. So I mean, the man is we would say here up north, he's 5 cans short of a 6-pack.
I like that. That should surely be an Australian saying as well.
Yes, it should actually. Yeah. Well, they'd say 5 tinnies short of a 6-pack.
They would.
Yeah. The next thing I wanted to highlight was now you get this thing. Scientists say we're all doomed. And all this stuff. Well, now scientists apparently say we've been vastly underestimating the diversity of life on Earth. So much for the sort of imminent ecologically catastrophic species extinction thing, because we've been underestimating how many species there are very dramatically. So any question of species going, extinct and whatnot is ridiculous, because we're discovering new species all the time.
Yeah.
So another sort of shibboleth of the environmental zealots bites the dust. And then the next sort of comment was from Electroverse, talking about all this stuff about the hottest summer ever. Well, there's huge problems with the measurement of temperatures in the UK, or indeed quite anywhere else that uses land-based thermometers now, or temperature probes, because almost all of them now are heavily influenced by urban heat island effect. In other words, creep of urbanization. And we've got the celebrated highest temperature in the UK, which just happened to be at an airport, where strangely airplanes are taking off and landing and taxiing with their engines on.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that happened when we started measuring temperatures at what was probably one of the coldest points in the last 10,000 years, around 1750-ish, we were using mercury thermometers, and they have quite a slow response time, but they're stable. The problem with the temperature probes we're using now is they're very sensitive to quick spikes in temperature. And so an aircraft taking off, in the near vicinity, like, three typhoons on a QRA, quick reaction alert from Coningsby, will spike the temperature dramatically for a short time. And of course, all of these highest temperatures based on measurements like that are spurious, because a mercury thermometer wouldn't have reacted as quickly or as heavily to that short-term temperature change, which is caused by an artifact, really, not by a real change in the ambient temperature. So
that doesn't even allow for the fact that obviously technology has moved on in producing thermometers. So thermometers from sort of decades ago surely won't be anywhere near as accurate or as comparable with the ones that we have nowadays.
Well, no, actually, over a longer term, the measurements would probably even out similarly over a long term. But what's happened also now is that apparently the boxes that they're using because they have them in a sort of a vented box.
Yeah.
And the boxes are now black where they used to be white.
So they attract
that's automatically a sort of extra absorption, because they absorb all incoming radiations and turn that into temperature change. So
I suspect that's deliberate.
It may well be. And the other thing is, apparently you're not supposed to take any measurements when the wind speed is below, I think it's about 3 meters a second or something. That's, if the airflow is less than that, you don't get a consistent, reliable reading. But the problem is, in many cases where these things are sited now, you don't get airflows anywhere near 3 meters a second. You get 1 meter per second or less.
So we're not allowing for natural cooling then?
Yeah, in effect, we're putting them in a hot box, where there's no heat flow, and surprise, surprise, they register a higher temperature. And the other thing is the heat probes. If you do measurements with the conventional mercury thermometer and try one of these new heat probes, almost invariably they introduce a ramp up of, I think it's about 0.5 degree Fahrenheit or something, about 0.3 Celsius thereabouts, just because of the change in technology. And they should be corrected back to represent, how the old mercury thermometers used to operate, or alternatively, we should just take all these temperature probes out and put mercury thermometers back. So we've got an incomplete temperature record. We've got temperature stations which are influenced by the urban heat island effect, and then the other thing, of course, we've also got phantom temperature stations, which the Met Office keeps reporting here in the UK, some of which haven't existed for decades, or the phantom stations that are fabricated by taking readings from adjacent stations miles and miles away and saying, oh, well, if that station there is that station there, and that, 5 or 6 stations, then they interpolate to estimate what the temperature is at this phantom station. Well, that's basically data falsification. And, this should be brought up, put in the local stocks and pilloried with rotten tomatoes.
It does feel like they are joining in with the agenda by not recording it in a fair and measured way.
Absolutely, because there's so many of them. I mean, if somebody suddenly turned around tomorrow and said, well, actually, there isn't really any climate crisis, and we don't need all you meteorologists, so you're bums out the windy, as the Scottish say, then, of course, they would all be panicking. So they've got to keep this Wurlitzer rolling, bandwagon rolling, because their salaries, their incomes, and research grants of various other, Hadley Institute and all these other places, they all depend on funding from government. And if government suddenly realise, well, actually, we're paying for nothing here because we don't need them, then there'd be history.
It's a bit like what we were talking about on our last episode of Full Throttle, where we were saying that over the centuries, there's always been a control. There's been a way of controlling people through fear.
Yes, the Christian church, it was eternal damnation, hellfire, all the rest of it.
Then the bomb.
Then the bomb,
and now climate change.
And then COVID for a while.
Yeah.
Until that proved to be also a scam, by and large. And now it's climate change and what I'll do, what I do,
exactly.
What I'll do, not.
Oh dear.
So, and next thing is good old Willie Soon, who's one of the most sane of the climate researchers. He and a colleague have produced a paper basically saying that the IPCC climate models are not worth the paper that they're printed on, or the virtual paper that you download to your as a PDF or whatever, and that they badly overestimate temperature trends in favor of alarm. And they described the IPCC's approach to measuring climate change as advocacy research. In other words, research designed to support a chosen hypothesis, rather than research designed to actually find out what the causes of what are the ultimate causes of climate change. Because of course they rule out almost all the natural sources and assign all of the climate change since the post-industrial period to man-made sources of emissions, and quite specifically carbon dioxide. And as we've already discussed, that's a jump proposition to start with. But their research is canted, and what apparently the conclusions in what are described as the summaries for policymakers seldom actually reflect what the experts who are feeding information into the IPCC report say. So they're sexed up like the weapons of mass destruction, Iraq thing, to justify the IPCC's existence.
Interesting.
And
the more you dig on this, the scarier it is.
The more corrupt and the more hinky it becomes. And actually, there's another paper, or article from he's actually, I wouldn't call him a climate realist, because I think he believes that there is a threat from climate change, but he's one of the more refreshingly open-minded of the warmists, as I call them, Roger Pielke. Who's quite a well-known in the science community, and he basically says that the IPCC exaggerate climate science, and basically says what I've just said. A new study finds the IPCC summary for policymakers has systematically amplified climate science beyond what the underlying report actually says. So he even though he is a sort of semi-believer, even he is of the opinion that the IPCC is more about advocacy than science.
There he is.
I'm not sure that's Roger Pielke, but anyway, I think he's younger than that. Right,
he's a Roger friend.
Yeah.
Do you see a time where people will actually start going along with what we see as being the real narrative?
I think it's coming, and it's coming big style. Certainly in America,
it feels like it's happening, doesn't it? It feels like it's already.
There is the plates are shifting now. There are a lot of, maybe not so much younger. Well, amongst younger people, there are those who are completely captured by this, climate crisis ideology, because they've been that's Pielke. When he was younger, that's Roger Pielke. That have been indoctrinated through their entire. It was Pielke Senior, was it? The other guy, it was his dad. Oh, okay, right, fine. That's why I didn't recognize him. There are youngsters who have been completely ideologically captured, or alternatively, they totally reject it. Like Naomi Zeibt, and who's the other girl? Who's actually, she's had to leave Germany and go to America because she, basically is convinced that the whole thing's a big scam, and she's quite strongly voiced the sort of anti Greta Thunberg. there was a one of the snowplows in
Greta Thunberg.
Really? They call it Greta Thunberg. And I keep calling it Greta Thunberg. So she totally rejects that and says, you've all been ideologically captured by essentially propaganda. It's not science. And she's been drummed out of America out of Germany for expressing views like that. But the backlash is coming now very much, and it is in America. It's getting stronger and stronger since Trump came in. And he's reversed a lot of the legislation that Sleepy Joe Biden had brought in, and with the result that America's growth rate now is about 4%. That's naming side, compared with sort of our really meteoric 0.1% growth. driven by Rachel from Accounts, Reeves.
Of course,
yeah. Growth, and then all the policies that emanate from as a result actually stamp on growth and destroy British industry very comprehensively. Anyway, we'll move on to something else. We'll just briefly hit on road safety. Well, two related road safety topics. The latest thing from the UK road safety, the establishment or the sort of the zealot establishment, is that we need 20 miles per hour everywhere, but we need to make it the default so we don't have to change the signs because it will cost too much. Irrespective of the fact that it doesn't deliver any safety advantages, it increases emissions because conventional vehicles, if you have to run them at 20 miles an hour, you're in higher gear and you're making larger emissions. And when you accelerate and decelerate, they spike emissions as well. And best of all, there's a TfL paper which basically shows that if the average speed of the vehicle is below 30 miles an hour, the emissions go up like that, almost vertically. And really, if you want the emissions to be reduced, you need the vehicle to be traveling at steady speed, anywhere between 30 miles an hour and whatever top speed you like, because the slope doesn't change very much. It's basically almost flat from 30 miles an hour to the motorway speed limit and above.
So for clarification, I take it this means that where areas with street lighting are automatically 30 miles per hour unless otherwise stated,
they want to make that 20.
Yeah. And in areas where they deem that to be too slow, I believe the local councils would have to apply to make it 30. So there would be a cost associated with that, and also provide the signage. So this is a way of enforcing 20 mile per hour on everybody, because councils won't be able to afford to do that. No,
absolutely. But ultimately, I think what will happen, there will be legal challenges to this, because the evidence doesn't support the implementation of 20 miles an hour. The scientific, road safety, air quality, none of the available. And then, of course, there's the other huge economic disadvantage. If you have to travel everywhere at 20 miles an hour, that takes 50% longer than the same journey at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it gets even more stupid if the speed limit's higher.
Yeah.
So the economic consequences are catastrophic.
They are. And we're not talking about families in their cars. We're talking about delivery goods. We're talking about
everything's delivered by road. It's completely bonkers.
So anything that uses the roads, it's bad enough if you are just wanting to get from A to B because you want to get there. But when people have got deadlines, when people are trying to sort of transport things, maybe they're doing 3 or 4 journeys a day, that will be reduced by the fact that they're having to do this greatly reduced speed.
And the fuel consumption will go up because the engine is running less efficiently in general.
Fuel consumption will go up, but also the fact that they can't deliver as many goods, that will increase the cost of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the economic cost will be catastrophic. But these people don't seem to care about cost benefit analysis or whether the economy thrives or not. They all want us to be wearing furs and living in caves and burning trees. No, we can't burn trees.
I'm not doing that. I'm having a log cabin built down the back of the garden just in case.
Watch out for the polar bears.
Yeah, they'll be coming. They won't be coming next week.
No, not anytime soon, I wouldn't think. A couple of thousand years or, tens of thousands of years, maybe.
Possibly. I doubt I'll see them, Brian. I doubt I'll see them.
No, I'll have taken a holiday somewhere else where it's warmer. And keeping on the road safety track, the latest thing is the EU thing about what's called intelligent, in inverted commas, speed adaptation, which basically is supposed to use GPS and forces you to adhere to the speed limit. And if you don't, the pedal thumps and all sorts of dials and bells and whistles all start signing off to force you to adhere to the speed limit. The first question you have to ask is the speed limit realistic? Has it been scientifically set, and is it respect worthy? Yeah. And the problem is, in many cases in the UK nowadays, none of those apply. So, you know, that you're automatically heading for fall. And the other problem is, it's not fitted to cars before, I think it was it April last year or something. It's relatively recent, and there's no way I'm ever going to buy or drive a car with that technology fitted to it, because I don't trust external technology to drive more safely than I can. And you know, that might seem a bit arrogant, but there's legion evidence of these self-driving cars smashing into things, and this is just one step removed from that, and it'll create the mindset in a lot of people, well, the technology is going to save me, I don't need to do anything. And that's going to cause...
I visited you recently, Brian, and we were having a look at some YouTube videos, and there was that very interesting one about the chap who was removing such software from his car. You know, well, hardware really, wasn't it? It was like a black box.
Yeah, there's a modem. It's a telemetry control unit, it's called.
That's right. Yeah. And of course, you know, you worry that when you're taking these things away, what impacts it can have on the car? Didn't appear to have anything, did it? It was the removal of a tracker. It's strange.
It's like all of these so-called safety augmentation things that actually turn the car more into a mobile phone on wheels than a vehicle, and also take pleasure away from driving. But of course, that's been the objective of the eco zealots for many years. The European Transport Safety Council was at one point run by a woman called Jean Breen, and she said we should reduce all speed limits to the lowest levels possible to take all the pleasure out of driving. And that's exactly what they're trying to do stepwise. But there will come a tipping point, because all of this lot are going to get cleared out at some point by hook or by crook, and we will have a move back to sanity and sensible speed limit setting, sensible speed limits, and sensible enforcement. It will come. It might come at a price, but it'll come.
And it's not just about speed either, is it? It's not just about speed. It's just literally about being able to enjoy driving again.
But the whole point about all this overbearing enforcement is it doesn't work, because the primary precipitating factors in almost all road accidents where alcohol, drugs, and sociopathic criminal behavior are not involved are observation, hazard perception, and hazard response failures. You need to get people to concentrate more, and increasing the intensity of the enforcement regime doesn't improve that situation. It makes it worse. You just add another hazard for drivers to cope with, and you distract them from the primary task, which is observing what's going on around them.
I agree totally. Yeah. There's nothing worse than when you've for whatever reason you've been given a speeding some points through the post, or if you're lucky, one of those very boring courses, but then it changes your driving style, even if it's only for the short term, and that way that you then drive kind of supersedes any logic that you've had behind the wheel before. So you start driving the car differently, and you're actually more dangerous than you were prior to maybe creeping over the limit by 3 miles.
So for me, certainly the most dangerous sections of, for example, the M1 are the managed speed sections. Because what happens is that everybody bunches up, following distances shorten, and people, their behavior becomes erratic. They don't signal properly. They just pull out and shoot in to not big enough gaps. And I just, as soon as I get to the bit where the de-restriction sign comes, I take the speed limiter thing off and basically put as much space between me and all the other traffic as I possibly can. And I like to have a 2 to depends on conditions, but certainly minimum 2 second exclusion zone, if you like, between me and the nearest vehicle throughout the whole journey as far as possible.
Yeah, I always try to keep the 2 chevrons.
Yeah,
But the thing for me is, I'll come on to a piece of PR that we've put out today. Variable speed limits on these motorways are an absolute hazard because you're trundling along. They've changed it from 70 to 60. Then all of a sudden it goes, for no apparent reason, down to 40 and then back up to 70. And you can see people braking and shifting and then all of a sudden accelerating. And it all gets very sort of like confusing. But Richard Town, who provides us with a lot of great material for our PRs,
he does
sent
indeed
something to us, and we have put a PR out today, basically saying that there's something like 36,000 incorrect speeding fines down to these variable speed limits on motorways.
Yeah,
and that in the background to this, people are actually being refunded for some of their fines. I would imagine if it's pushed some people over the 12-point limit, and those people have been banned, then those will be struck from the record. It's very interesting that somebody somewhere has realized that there's a massive error, but this error isn't like recent. This has been going on for years.
It's very this is, see, my view on this is really one of the biggest problems actually started when the wall came down.
What, in 89?
No, I'm quite serious, because there was supposed to be a peace dividend, but what we then had was a lot of technology companies with technology that would have been used to protect us from the enemy had to find a new target market, and the target market was us. We became the enemy, and we had to be protected, from ourselves at all costs. And so,
as in we, the drivers.
As in we, the whole damn population, but certainly it's the thin end of the wedge started with road safety, and it's expanded from there. And so we are intransigent and what's the word, like misbehaving children. We have to be controlled. Perister thought we should have any agency or capabilities or common sense of our own. Because Big Brother needs to look after us. And it's just got worse and worse and worse, to the point now where Big Brother is actually not looking after us. He's making our lifestyle worse and actually probably causing more problems than he's solving.
Well, there's unfortunately, Big Brother doesn't seem to exhibit any form of common sense.
No.
It's just rules and regulations that are plucked out of thin air.
Common sense, no discretion, no real logic. And precious few ethics or morals.
Absolutely.
So that is a big problem. Anyway, moving away from road safety, let's move on to energy politics. Trump, good old Trump, has his policies have taken the I was going to say the wind out of Big Wind, but because essentially a lot of the permits have been stalled. Almost all of the subsidies behind supporting wind power in the United States have been massively cut back, with the result that many of wind farm projects now are not viable, they were always subsidy farming. So now that the subsidies have dwindled away, the wind industry is backpedaling in America, and which is probably a good thing, because a little bit of renewable energy is probably not too bad, but the more renewable energy you get, the more problems it poses for your grid generation generally. And Trump has very much put a brake on it. We really need idiot Miliband to do the same thing in this country, but I won't hold my breath for that to happen.
No, I think you're right. I think it could perhaps be included as part of the energy mix, but realization needs to be that it's never going to be able to support the whole of the UK. Maybe in some remote areas, solar panels could be used to top people.
Well, for domestic use, possibly. If you've got a south-facing elevation on your house and stuff like that, you want to do that. Generate your own electricity from solar power, that's fine. But the problem is, when the sun stops shining, like it does a lot in the winter in this country, and the wind doesn't blow, which it also does a lot in the winter here. Neither wind nor solar generate, well, I won't use the word, but they don't generate very much energy at all. And then at other times, when there's too much wind and too much sun, these generators are being paid not to put energy into the grid.
Yeah, because there's too much of it.
Yeah.
And weirdly, heat pumps are most efficient during the summer months when you don't need the heat.
Yeah, because they're basically they cool things down.
Yeah.
So when it's very cold, they don't heat things up efficiently at all.
Yeah,
you couldn't make it up. Anyway, speaking of not being able to make things up, an idiot Miliband again. The latest piece of news is that there was a Chinese car maker was looking at building a battery electric vehicle plant here in the UK.
Yeah.
Shelved the plans because of high UK energy costs. So well done, Ed Miliband.
Yeah.
Make everyone buy battery electric vehicles, then make it too expensive to make them here. You could not make that up. It just shows that the guy's incapable of logical thought. Joined up thinking is not a phrase that is in his vocabulary.
Do you see a time where the North Sea will be being drilled again?
Not under this administration, but
definitely not. No.
I mean, you can cap all the wells and do all that sort of stuff. But if another administration comes in and decides we will exploit Norwegian oil, British oil, British North Sea oil, the advantages are that there'll be a huge tax bonanza. It'll be our own energy, and irrespective of what Miliband says about gas being an internationally traded product, well, it is. But if you've actually got your own source of it and you're piping it into the UK, that's the cheapest way you can bring it into the country.
Absolutely.
And so that automatically stabilizes and squashes out upward and downward variations because it's your own product. And at the moment, we are paying for Norwegian gas that is coming from the same area of the North Sea as
we should be drilling ourselves.
We should be drilling, and we're paying obviously we're paying over the odds for it because the Norwegians, they're not philanthropists; they're not going to do it for nothing. No. And we are bolstering the Norwegian sovereign wealth fund, so they're massively oversubscribed pension scheme, and we are all we're getting from them is energy short term. At a cost. Meanwhile, our own resources are lying there untapped, unused, no tax revenues coming back from it.
Yeah, this is what annoys me. We've got
hard to make it up.
Such a weak government. A strong government would be one that tapped into this resource and was looking after the people of the country. We've got the exact opposite of that, and it's so frustrating. Everything that they seem to do is against the people that have been here, been born here, and have lived here for decades. And it's just gone beyond a joke.
It has, absolutely. But
it's going to kick off. It's going to kick off.
I suspect it rather will, actually. And it will be a problem when it does.
Yeah.
But they are ideologically opposed to exploiting hydrocarbons cause climate change, which is the climate is changing. It's been changing for the last 4.8 million years.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is not having any material effect on climate.
No. And it's always going to change.
Absolutely, yeah. And Labour government thinking that, well, we've already discussed this, but we are responsible for apparently 0.8% of man-made emissions, and man-made emissions are about 5% of the total.
Yeah.
So it's 0.8%. It's 9/10 of NAF all.
Yeah. You come from a scientific background.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. But even I can totally get on board and understand what is actually really going on. So you don't need to come from a scientific background to be able to appreciate the nonsense that people are being fed.
No. Well, but of course, the developing world, these Vanuatu and all these other places, it's all this climate stuff is your fault. Pay us some money so that we can combat it or whatever. They're going to take all the handouts they can get. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
And we're stupid enough in the developed world to do it instead of them actually getting off their ample bottoms, shall I say, and actually generating economic activity and products to paddle their own canoe.
Yeah. I can't see Donald saying, "Oh, here you go. Here's a blank check." What would you like?
No, he's not that kind of businessman. Definitely not. The other interesting comment was one from David Blackman, who basically said that global plans are now being made to circumvent the Hormuz choke point. In effect, the Iranians have shot themselves in both feet with a very large 12 bore, because people have realized, well, they're going to do this kickoff like this every time something upsets them. So basically, we'll find ways to get oil elsewhere, and Hormuz and the Iranians can go and sing for their supper or do the other thing. And of course, now the United States is the world's biggest oil exporter, thanks to their fracking, hydraulic fracturing, as they call it, fracking initiative. That they are, they can sit and laugh at all this, because they're not only are they energy self-sufficient in hydrocarbons, except for California, of course, because in New York, California, idiots who are on the same wavelength as Miliband, the same brain-boiling wavelength as Miliband. And California is going to be it's Lembit.
Oh, let's have a word. Let's hear from Lembit.
Hi, Lembit. We're actually on a Full Throttle Zoom con at the moment.
But you're welcome.
Sorry, say again? All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Fine. Brilliant. All right. Cheers. Thanks. Bye. Lembit is on a plane. He said it was right that I did not go to the US this time, but next time we need to rethink.
And who knows?
But Lembit is en route back at the moment.
I might even join you.
And he said he will join us tomorrow morning. Excellent.
There you go, folks. Just to prove, that recording's great fun.
Yeah. Live recording. You can't legislate for what might happen.
So all this stuff that's been going on in Hummers has it's been quite clever by Donald, actually, because none of it's impacted on their ability to get oil out of the ground. It's forced the price up for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, it did have an adverse effect on US gasoline as petrol prices. As
it's forced the price up for everybody.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But he could sit that out, because it's a temporary blip and prices have fallen down again now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure I heard on the news the other day that diesel has gone down by something like 15 pence per litre in the last few days. Which is the biggest drop it's had in years. Well, that's because it was at the highest it's been in years.
Well, but of course, the other thing that we've done is that successive governments have made it more and more difficult for refineries to operate in this country. Our diesel refining capacity I'm not sure we have any left now. I think we might be importing most of our diesel. So then we are open to the vagaries of the market. And this government seems to have no sympathy whatsoever for any kind of industrial operation.
No.
Speaking as somebody
the deindustrialization of this country is absolutely going to cripple us. Yeah.
It is criminally negligent.
It is.
If there were treason laws that could be deployed, I believe then they should be deployed against the politicians who have been party to this, because they have been destroying our industrial base, our industrial heritage, the job prospects for our young people and for existing workers in the hydrocarbon industry and in related industries like the one that I was in. Along with the negligence relating to defense, negligence relating to energy security is is criminal and should be punishable by jail time.
Totally.
Any
100%
politician who's
agree.
responsible for that should be slung in jail for the rest of his or her natural, as far as I'm concerned.
Because we encourage it, but not we, but the country encourages this sort of stupidity because it doesn't give freely, opposition to it.
Well, but it's because the all three political parties are compressed into the green blob space. I mean, we'll come back to this at the end of the podcast. Right. So what else? I mentioned before, US is the top oil exporter for the last 3 months in a row. Somebody said, once an Arab oil embargo victim, US becomes the world's top oil exporter. Coal seems to be coming back in Alaska. There's more and more an effort going into resuscitating nuclear in America. There's huge expansion in small modular SMR, small modular reactor technology startups in America. People like Robert Bryce have been reporting it, but putting a cautionary hand up and saying, look, there's far too many startups here for the industrial base to support. So a lot of them are going to fall by the wayside, but at least it's being talked about and being done. Whereas we pay lip service to it in this country. And I mean, we have the stupid situation that the legislation currently in place demands that the radiation levels inside nuclear reactors are lower than they are in the surrounding environment outside the plant and in the area where the plant is situated. Well, that's false safety, because once you go out the plant, you're subject to the background radiation count anyway. So why not just accept if we can get radiation levels down to the background count, which is present in the country as a whole, that's satisfactory. But we have to over-egg the pudding, spend more and more unnecessary amounts of money, making it even safer than being outside.
It's going to be like VHS and Betamax all over again.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So that's covered that. And then the other thing is, I mentioned New York and California earlier. Well, California is run by the idiot Gavin Newsom, who is Miliband's deranged blood brother, I think. And they have a situation in California where they're not supposed to buy hydrocarbons, but apparently there's found some surreptitious way of getting hydrocarbons into California. And the Californian state's a hugely important state for the United States in terms. I mean, I think is it about 40 million or something? It's a big chunk of the American population in California. And they're huge users of hydrocarbons, despite the fact that Newsom says they're going to be, net zero by 2050 and all this nonsense.
Not a chance.
But apparently they're at this position now where jet fuel is becoming a problem, and Newsom wants to shut down remaining refineries, which would put even bigger pressure on jet fuel refining. And then, of course, it would be a struggle to keep California's airport open.
It's
just, again, you just think, what have these people got between their ears? Because clearly it's not brains.
So I wonder what it could be.
Well, I could make a few suggestions, but probably they wouldn't be for sensitive ears, shall we say?
Now, meanwhile, over in Australia, they've had a bit of a population explosion.
I was just coming down to that exactly. Go on, you can lead the charge with this.
Okay. So I don't know what previously the population was, but it's now exceeded 28 million, which when we're looking at sort of 70 million here, seems quite small. But remembering that Australia, the people have to live around the sort of like the fringes of Australia, because it's mostly
there's not that much in the centre.
There's not a lot in the centre at all. So over the past 5 years, around 80% of that population growth has come from overseas migration.
Exactly.
Australians didn't vote for it. They didn't ask for it. And in fact, they want the opposite. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
It does sound very familiar, actually. Yeah. And the backlash is building there as well, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's not just, we've now got Len Mitopic phoning me.
All right.
I shall decline and I'll call him back.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Limit. But yeah, it's a very familiar sounding story. Not surprised really, as primarily Australians have come from us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so they do tend to have the same kind of thought process on such matters. Conservative with a small c. Yeah, it's an interesting one that because we're so embroiled with our own problems here, we tend to not realise that other countries have got exactly the same.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
do seem to handle it a lot better than us.
It's become. I think it's becoming a problem for them now. I mean, it's the same in Sweden and Norway. Norway, apparently, the latest poll I just saw, they most Norwegians now want some form of remigration. They don't want any more immigration, and they want numbers to be sent back. About 80%. No, that's not it. That's the wrong one. There wasn't a chart associated with that one, but essentially, yeah. And the Swedes as well are coming to the same conclusion, because when I first started going to Sweden 25 or so years ago, it was a very homogeneous country with a low percentage of migrants from outside of the other Nordic countries. I mean, they had some Finns, some Danish, Norwegians that had migrated around the countries, but there wasn't a huge population of, shall we say, incomers from nations in the Middle East, for example. But there's been a massive expansion over those years, and the further the expansion has proceeded, the more the civil unrest, drug taking, crime. Gothenburg at one point was the murder capital of Europe. I'm not sure it still is.
Yeah.
Drug gang related kind of stuff. And the more of these largely unvetted people they've allowed in, the more the problem has spiraled. Sound familiar?
Yeah, sounds very familiar, sadly.
So yeah, I'm not surprised the Australians are kicking off about it. The Irish are kicking off about it, of course, as well, because they've got similar problems to us. But what is interesting is that all of the administrations that have overseen this change are described as left-leaning.
Yeah.
And this brings me on to the bottom, the very last highlighted topic in this paper. And basically, this again was a Roger Pielke thing. And what he was saying is, over the passage of time, the highly educated, have drifted more and more towards the left, as he describes it.
Yeah.
And that's the chart that you just showed before, Charlotte.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come up in a minute. But that's the one. And you can see the bottom of the axis is the year, I think it's 1964 up to 2020. And you can see a gradual shift. And I don't know why they put it this way around, because actually on the right of the chart is left leaning. Why would they not put them the other way around? They're back to front. So the further to the right of the chart, the more left leaning students have become. I think it's
university. And also they've used the wrong colours as well. I'd have gone
exactly.
Blue and red the opposite way
back to front in more than one way. But anyway, the point is that they've become left leaning. And then there's another chart which is similar, which shows not by country but by occupation, I think it is. There's another chart which shows a similar thing, that basically in the last 20 to 30 years, large tracts of the population, their policies or their political leaning has become left. But actually, when you dig down, it's not left right anymore, and hasn't been left right for a long time, because ultimately far left and far right are the same thing. They're Nazism, they're Stalinism, they're Pol Pot, they're Idi Amin, they're whoever you like. They're totalitarian. So what's been happening is that increasingly people have become sympathetic to totalitarian thinking, to the suppression of individual liberty, suppression of free speech, suppression of freedom of mobility, freedom of movement, freedom of association, and freedom of expression, and ultimately freedom of thought. So what we've actually got is an Overton window that's not left-right, it's libertarian, totalitarian. And almost all of the political parties in the UK now fit into that metric. And they're actually, when Starmer accuses people of being far right, what he actually means is they're libertarian because he is a totalitarian. He's a Marxo-fascist in effect, as a lot of these politicians are now. And he would be more comfortable working with, who's the guy? Kim Jong-un, is it? The guy in North Korea, In fact, I think we should offer Starmer a one-way ticket to North Korea as his leaving present. So, and those metrics were from the American science and political commentator Roger Pielke, but they apply to us as well, and they apply to our politics. So every time now anybody accuses anybody of being far right, the translation of that is libertarian. So as soon as anybody accuses me of being far right, that's great, because I'm a libertarian. I'm proud to bear that badge. And anybody accusing me of being far right is obviously a Marxo-fascist. So, their views don't count. And frankly, and some people might object to it, but as far as I'm concerned, really, Marxo-fascists represent the dregs of the human, what's the word? Not cesspit, what's the other word? They are the absolute dregs of the moral and ideological cesspit, I'm afraid.
I think the problem is as well, people they're being called racist when they're not actually racist. What they are sick and tired of is their culture being either diluted or eradicated, because we all saw what happened. Was it Bristol, where statues were being dragged into the river, and people renaming buildings? Because once you start forgetting history, that's when you're in danger of repeating history. And that was something that I was always taught as a kid. History is there not to be embarrassed of, but to be learnt from. And what you don't do is remove it, because once you do, we go back into that cycle again, and we'll start having the same issues that we had back in. Well,
ultimately, you lose the confidence of the electorate and the population. And when that happens, then the politicians are in big trouble.
Well, I
believe we're not too far away from that point now.
A lot of people are saying we're sort of 1936 at the moment.
And certainly Mr. Hilter, or whatever you want to call him, or Starmer, or Mr. Starlamarinsky. I mean, and I worry that Burnham is in effect of the same mold.
He's apparently further left than Starmer was.
Well, exactly, and that just means further towards the totalitarian end of the axis than Starmer. And of course, all of this suppression of freedom of expression, all the rest of it, is the hallmark of a Marxo-fascist totalitarian regime. So ultimately, we need to get rid of these people, because they are very, very dangerous. They are illiberal, anti-democratic, and just out and out nasty people. Or Nazi people, whichever you like.
Very Nazi people.
Very Nazi, that's them.
Well, on that bombshell.
Oh, no.
We've covered the news very well there, I think.
Right. Yes. On that bombshell, we'll close this evening's episode. Here endeth the lesson.
So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from me. And it's good night from him.
Close enough.
Exactly.